Welcome to Can Angels Fly, Tarot, and more. My name is Nancy, and today I'm here to continue sharing the visions that I've been having. They still haven't stopped, y'all. They still haven't stopped. I'm trying really hard to get it together, but it's been difficult for me to do so. Let's see. Is that- okay. I'm gonna make it quick because there are so many people that seem to be calling on me for one reason or another. Well, the other day I did live and I was sharing the horrible visions that I had. I have been having visions for some time now, and I've been trying to like block them. But the what's today? Friday. I think it was earlier this week. I went to like a ladies' night out and I had some edibles. I had a piece of pie, sweet potato pie, edible sweet potato pie. And after I did that, I wasn't able to stop the visions. And so they've been pouring in. They were already trying to, make their way in, and I kept blocking them. But again, after that edible, I couldn't. And so I shared in the previous live stream called Horrible Visions, the majority of my visions. At the time that I created that previous live, I was just coming out from up under the influence of the edible. And I went back under the influence of the edible in order to get the message. Because when I initially ate the pie, my peyote pie, I had visions for hours. I mean, for hours. Actually ended up going into days. Again, remember visions kept trying to come and I'm constantly blocking them. But I'm not under the influence of anything. So I'm blocking the visions. But after I ate that piece of peyote pie, couldn't stop it. And so I was having I had visions, hardcore, vivid visions, for hours and hours and hours, and I shared them. Well, that night, I was walking around here like a crazy person, talking to myself, trying to, like, take mental notes of what I was seeing. Because it's not the first time I had cannabis, so I already knew that most times when I come out from under the influence of cannabis, I don't really remember. I know I done had an experience, but I don't know the details of it. So I knew that was a chance. So I'm walking around here like a crazy person, talking to myself, trying to take mental notes so I can remember what I was experiencing. It was horrible. I'm like, oh my God, when is this going to be over? My son was like, Mama, you is tripping. Are you okay? I said, no, I ain't okay. Because what I'm seeing is not okay. That went on forever. So, after I came out from under the influence, but of course I could not recall in detail the visions that I was seeing. So I had to go back under the influence. And so I did. And that last live stream, I was just coming out from under the influence of the edible. Little small piece of paper. And I took notes and I shared what I saw. There are some things that I did not talk about in that video because I still had to like process it, what I saw. And so in this video, I am going to share the remainder of my vision. There's still some parts that I'm not quite clear about. And so this is a disclaimer that what I share in this live stream, talking about my visions, it's disturbing, and it can be toxic to one's mental health. So beware. In the last live stream, I talked about oh gosh, what did I talk about? I don't even know what I did with those notes. That's as far as I can remember. I just left with the sensation it's left me with, which is horrible, and I'm trying to work my way through it. So, how do I? I was trying to think what I shared in that one. I don't want to replay everything in my head, um, but it felt like I need to recap on what I shared in that video. Uh, so y'all will have to just go locate that video called Horrible Visions to hear that part. I just want to pick up on the parts that I didn't share and I still was processing. Um, what I saw, other things that I saw in my visions, I saw ethereal beings. I could see them clearly. Horrifying. Horrifying. I seen them like actively engaging us in humanity. Another thing I need to point out is for my whole life I've been trying to understand my visions. I really have. And I think I kind of got it. My visions are mostly localized based on my immediate environment. Sometimes I do have more broad visions about other parts of the world, but it's like I can see like in my region. I don't know how to express it, more in my region, stuff I'm exposed to. So that's one thing I'm realizing. One of the things, what is this thing doing? One of the things that I saw was like plots, Plots, or lots, or acres. Basically, just the land mass broken up into a grid, like plots, but in grid, gridded. And what I seen was these dark places or dark spaces. In the last video, I talked about how the ethereal beings and some of the ethereal beings that manifest here in the physical have manipulated humanity into allowing death traps to be set up, is what I talked about. And so, in the visions that I'm continuing to have, even to this moment, it's these plots. When I say plots, now catch me. Act like there are no houses or anything or trees or businesses. It's just plots. Our earth gridded off. Grids. Not put all the trees and stuff back on it. So these grids still exist. These plots still exist. And these squares were hazy, gray, dark. In the last video, I talked about YouTuber New Breed and how he had said it's like something like this. That people seem like they are high off of the smoke from hell or something like that, or they're high from smoking the smoke or inhaling the smoke from hell or something like that, he said. And when he said that, I was like, ooh. I seen that in my vision. It was like smoke, that kind of hazy, dusty smoke. And it's not something we can see. Now, mind you, when I'm talking, when I'm sharing, I'm talking about what I'm seeing in the spiritual realm. I'm not talking about what we see in the physical realm. When you look out your window, you see what you see. I see something quite similar. I see my neighbor's house, the community. I see all that which is the normal. But since I've started having these visions, I'm also seeing the spiritual aspect. And the spiritual aspect that I'm seeing, especially or primarily relative to my locale, my location, even though it's just not my location, but this where I can see it so clear and vivid, is these grids or plots, and it's all this smoky gray smoke like from hell, like New Breed was talking about. And the ethereal being is this huge entity. It's this huge entity. In my visions, because it's been ongoing for days, I saw Joe Biden, I saw Kamala Harris next to this huge ethereal being. Now, mind you, I've been having visions for weeks. That's one of the reasons I haven't been on YouTube. I've been trying to contain it, trying to control myself, And when I ate that peyote pie and opened a can of worms, Pandora's box, whatever. So I bring it up that visions have kept trying to come because I have been constantly getting messages about Joe Biden, messages about Kamala Harris, and I'm constantly trying to ignore them because what good does it do me? What can I do? You know, I'm like, what can I do? Anywho, so all of this smoke coming up off these grids or these plots, but we can't see it. It's really taking place based on my visions. It's really taking place right here, right now, in my location, and your location is everywhere. The whole world has been negatively influenced. Oh, you got here real quick. Okay, okay, put it right. I got her baby. Oh, look at that. Since I gave her the thing, she been sleeping. She didn't get caught. I gave her what I guess it's giving her comfort. Feel like somebody's in on the side of it. But don't be all that. Enough. All right, I'm live. Get out. Bye. Bye. There they go. So, oh, when the last time she ate? Okay. So, what was I saying? I forgot. I didn't forget the vision. I forgot this baby was coming. I'm a grandmother again. Isn't that something? That's one more thing. Anywho, so, horrible visions. Disclaimer, protect your mental health. So, these dark places, I guess I can talk about these dark places. These dark places, like in my location, I have to talk about the death traps that I talked about in the first part. These death traps have been created in every grid, in every plot of this earth, because humanity accepted the help or assistance of these ethereal beings. These ethereal beings are far more intelligent and advanced than ourselves. These ethereal beings that I'm talking about, that I'm seeing, they are the gods that many cultures talk about. Now, these ethereal beings, early man perceived as helpful, as godly, as divine, as worthy of being praised, Why? Because these ethereal beings gave man the technology that they needed. When I say they, I'm talking about humanity, needed to help facilitate our survival, to ward off death. That's what I talked about in the last one. Yeah, that's what I talked about in the last one. And so, but there were some like hidden clauses associated with this accepting and using this technology that we've used throughout the years, whether it's to make another wheel, plumbing, aqueducts first, then plumbing, candles, then electricity. Is just the advancements in technology were given to us by what? These gods or these ethereal entities. But there are stipulations. And let me talk about the stipulations. Okay, there was a thin line that existed in accepting this technology and using it, right? I'm trying to articulate visions, y'all. So I had to wave with me, if you will. Don't know if I'll be able to finish. I got a baby right here. So there are rules. We've talked about all these things on my channel, and as I was interpreting the stars and reading tarot cards and sharing my life experiences, oftentimes I tell you I don't even know honestly what I'm saying. I'm just following the rules. I follow the rules, I apply the rules, and I find the messages, or whatever the case may be. I listen. But after the visions, it's like I know now. At first, I didn't know fully what I was saying. You know, I was just following the rules and applying everything the way it was supposed to be applied. What am I talking about? I'm talking about, again, deciphering my life, reading the tarot cards, reading astrology, dealing with astronomy, anything, even all my college education I didn't understand. Now I do. So I just follow the rules in the past. So I'm gonna say. So humanity had these stipulations. Don't say. The technology that these gods gave us was for us to what? Assist us in survival, to ward off death. And the stipulation is that it's for humanity. It's literally for humanity's well-being and our advancement and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how to talk about it because it's a thin line. And the thin line is, in our real physical world, is greed. All these things that we think we know what it means is not quite what it really is in the spiritual realm. It's not the same. Uh, the, the greed and the misappropriation and misuse of resources of all types, those kind of examples, is what created the death traps. That's what created the death traps. And so it's hard for me to talk about because, again, I've been working on what's occurring in this physical realm in relationship to the spirit for at least 5 or 6 years. So a lot of the work I've done has been about that. And but what am I doing today? I'm trying to share my visions, but it's hard to articulate a vision. But I've been shown, and I'm still seeing and saying. So anyway, these death traps have been set up. Maybe I'll come back to that another time. Try to get some of the message out for Baby Wake Up. So these death traps exist like, let me give you one. From the inner city. I'm from the inner city. I'm from Detroit. In the 1980s, that's when drugs came in, the crack cocaine. You know, it's always been some drugs every 10 years, every decade. We talked about it. They flood the inner cities with drugs. Crack cocaine was the biggest thing. Crack cocaine came in to change the whole state of consciousness of the people. Breaking down homes. And this is one of the things I was shown. Breaking down homes and family. There's stipulations. Family unity is what was taught, one of the things taught to us by these gods. But there are stipulations. You can't break the rules of this realm. If you break the rules to the utopia or to the heaven, then you inadvertently cause the opposite to occur. So, going back to the 80s, the crack epidemic hit, families are dismantled, tore apart, people addicted, da-da-da-da. See, we just take it in this, how do you say, we perceive that time period in history of humanity as just a drug epidemic. It was greater than that, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know how to say it. It was greater than that. It was more than just the dismantling of families. It was one of the traps laid. So we look at that epidemic and the residual effects as unfortunate, but we don't look at them or see them as something that is spiritual. I'll try to explain. So, when the families broke down, talking about in the black community primarily, that's what I witnessed, that's what I experienced. So I could talk, uh, I could talk, more uh, consciously about it, or uh, appropriately or efficiently about it. The families broke down. What I saw in these visions, one set of visions, and so not only was it the drug addiction, the breaking down of the family, we had an increasing amount of black males, especially going off to prison. The dads, the uncles, and the brothers and the cousins, and they doing 10, 15, 20 years. They come home, and there's a lot of secrets that haven't been told. I'm talking about the black community, but it's abroad now. This is the world I'm talking about, but I'm focusing on mine to try to make it make sense. And so what am I talking about? I'm talking about pedophilia and molestation was taking place. And that also plays into what we have going on today as far as uh, uh, the whole concept of sexuality being distorted. It plays into that as well. This is the visions I'm seeing. And so not only did it take or break down families and take a lot of black men out of the families, and death of parents and things like that. These were children. This is becoming the Scorpio generation. Uh, that generation, and some of even their parents were improperly influenced. They were not nurtured the way a human being is supposed to be nurtured. What am I talking about? I'm trying to explain how these death traps were set up. It's like Pandora's box. The gifts from Pandora's box, the beautiful gifts, that they turn out to be curses. This is what these gods gave to us. I'm telling y'all, over this whole last week since I ate that peyote pie, it's been on popping. But it had been what? Trying to pop prior. And I've been holding it up. Now, it won't stop. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about one episode that occurred in our physical world during my time here in the world that created certain death traps. Oftentimes we see these posts on Facebook that say, what's wrong with people today? And we see children killing their parents, and parents having to kill their children, or just all kind of crazy stuff. All of this is a residual effect of the time period, like what I'm talking about, where there was no authority or true parental authority, and even generational authority, like the parents, the grandparents, that kind of thing. All of that was destroyed as a direct result of that time period. I hope I'm explaining this right. So today, we sit here, and it's this whole thing about sexuality being distorted. It is splitting society, Then we have the current event that continues to unfold, the vids, the vax, put the mask on, take it off. What should you do? Splitting society. When I'm talking about all over the world now, but I'm using my locale to try to describe the visions that I'm seeing. So all of this is splitting society. How do I do it? Because there's so many death traps. Let me go back and talk about this grid, or the gridded earth, or the plots in which plumes of gray, hazy smoke is coming up. I like the way New Breed said it's like people getting high off the smoke from hell, or something like that. So this is what I saw in this vision, like all the smoke, and I'm seeing this ethereal, big, huge ethereal being. I see Biden and Kamala here. It's right there with them. I'm like, and mind you, it's daytime. In my real time life, it's really daytime. It's sunny. It's summer. People out riding their bikes, doing their things. And why my crazy self sitting up seeing the spirit. I see what they see too and experiencing, but I also see the spirit. I told y'all 2021 was going to be the year that you could see the spirit. It's called, I think the video I did was called Knowing. And man, oh man. So anyway, so let me tell you about these dark plots, or spaces and places. In the inner city, I'm going to talk about my locale to try to make it make sense. A lot of the dark places that are active now are places that are blighted, um, whether it's neighborhoods, communities, closed businesses. These are dark places and spaces in which all the smoke, the smoke from hell is ascending. And I really don't even know how to talk about these. I don't know. I really don't know how to talk about it. I really don't know how to. I tried to write some notes, but I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. I want to talk about something else. I did, what do you call it, a quarterly uh, prediction, astrological prediction for June, July, and August. I think it was. And in it talked a lot. When I say it, I'm talking about the astrological energies and me, the code. Talked about doomsday preppers and survivalists and things like that. I just followed the rules, interpreted what I saw. I'm like, that don't make no sense. I tell you, I get on YouTube and I watch other people. I don't hear nobody talking about no doomsday preppers. I even tell y'all when I deliver the message, the prediction, I'm like, hey, this is something that you really can't prove because it's more of on an intimate level, private level. You don't know what people doing in their life. But in the last couple of days, I've been hearing a whole lot here on YouTube, news, everything about survivors and doomsday preppers. Highly active. Behind the scenes, highly active. And the reason why these survivalists and doomsday preppers are highly active is because of these death traps that I'm talking about. Now, the death traps have continued to increase in quantity over hundreds and hundreds of years. Now, I'm not talking about something that just happened overnight. See, we want to think now because we live mostly in the moment because of our psyche now. We're in the physical. We're dealing with spiritual stuff that's been going on millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years, thousands of years. Now, let me stop. I know I'm all over the place. I don't know how to put it in order, sharing these visions. So, back to the ethereal entity. Remember, I did a video called Pyramids a couple of years ago, I think. Those ethereal beings are associated with that pyramid, which that pyramid is a symbol of our social hierarchy and the distribution of natural resources. The distribution of natural resources needs to occur successfully in order to ward off death for all people alive during any time period in the history of humanity. Those ethereal beings gave us that whole system. And it took us, and I keep talking about it, thousands of years to build a whole system. The most recent part of that system, the pyramid system, the hierarchy, social hierarchy, is actually the infrastructure. The infrastructure, so you know what I'm talking about, has to do with our water supply. It has to do with our lighting, the distribution of lighting, water, food, roads, all those kind of things. That's the infrastructure to help us what? Facilitate or to distribute all the natural resources that we need in order to sustain our lives or ward off death. You get what I'm saying? So that ethereal being brought us that system. What existed before that system? I guess we were just in the arms of the divine. I'm still working through that. So, now from that system, there were stipulations, many stipulations put in place. Yes, everything that ethereal being or God brought to us and taught us could sustain our life, would sustain our life, and ward off death and allow us to die easy. However, there was a thin line, stipulations, you cannot step overboard. We have stepped overboard over and over and over again. We have been manipulated by the powers in this world to step overboard. Now, I really don't know how to talk about the consequences for stepping overboard. And I'm not talking about the physical, worldly consequences. I'm talking about the spiritual consequences. I'm trying to articulate my visions. The consequences for stepping overboard in the spiritual, I can't fully describe, at least right now. But what I did see, and it just blew my mind when I was having this particular vision the other day, a couple of days ago, as I seen this same time I seen the ethereal being with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and some other stuff, is that we are some type of like plasma beings. And I've heard people say this before. We're some other type of substance. Now, in the physical world, in the natural world, without all this insanity, crazy talk I'm doing, we look like we look. We got some flesh, some meat, some fat, with a bone, skin, whatever. But in the ethereal, in these visions, we weren't that. We were some other type of substance, plasmic substance, that this ethereal being can basically slurp up. But we have to be released from this. And see, it all go together. I hear people talk about all this stuff. I talk about all this stuff, but these visions, oh my God, have taken it to another level. And so, what am I talking about? Based on my visions, I come to understand that our social hierarchy and our infrastructure is key to sustaining us in the physical. However, we have to follow the laws, the natural laws and things. Must. If we don't, we inadvertently trigger the opposing energy or opposing reality. It's heaven and hell. Simplify. Heaven and hell. Light or dark. Simplify. So, I'm aware of that now from the visions I've had. So the only thing I see is what choice humanity has is to be consumed by this ethereal entity and its kind, because we don't know how to be right. We don't know how to be biblically righteous. We don't know how to do that. We've been improperly influenced and misled. All these things y'all heard me say over and over again. But I just got another level of understanding, and I'm trying to bring it to y'all, and it's very difficult doing so. And so anyway, over these thousands and thousands of years, hundreds and hundreds of years of becoming more and more unrighteous or not following the stipulation, even the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth, if you watch the video I did on interpreting her birth chart, she was dealing with this same entity I'm telling y'all about. I said, I want to know, when I seen this entity, I knew that was the entity that her birth chart said she was dialoguing with and her family was dialoguing with. And they set up, and there were stipulations that she and her bloodline must follow, otherwise everything will be stripped away from her. You got to go watch that video. So, same entity. They know to follow the rules, otherwise they lose everything. Humanity did not understand to the extent, did not understand that we have to follow the rules. We didn't understand. The Queen and her bloodline understood. That's why they still maintain their power and supremacy over the rest of the world. Humanity didn't understand. And because we broke these different rules, I talked about crack epidemic and the effects it had, from my perspective, on the inner city, the family, the breakdown, A lot of men dying or going to jail or being absent, coming out, molesting kids, especially boys, and how it played into that. We got the breakdown in the relationship between the parents and the children. All are an effect of that time period. You know, that's just one example. Other examples of how death traps are set up. A death trap. Another way death traps were set up. But remember, death traps are set up through people's ego, being egotistical, being greedy. Like the Flint water crisis, talking about things that we know of, so we can hopefully y'all understand me. That remember the social hierarchy and the infrastructure that allows us to distribute natural resources to everyone so that we can sustain our life and ward off death and die easy must be followed. If you do anything else, you overtly trigger the opposite energy. Okay? So, Flint water crisis. Now, mind you, it took us thousands of years. We got this technology. It took us thousands of years. We started by digging ditches, then making dams, and then water ducts. And now we got plumbing and indoor plumbing. That's what we got now. That's been an advancement in technology over the history of humanity. Now, back in the day, the original people knew just how important it was to follow the rules. And so they did, you know. But gradually, over time, people lost the knowing that you had to abide by these rules or laws or stipulations. Otherwise, you what? Trigger the death trap. So anyway, now let's bring it up today. Flint water crisis. Why is Flint water poisoned? You know, why is it contaminated? Because people were misappropriating money, taking shortcuts, cheating, padding their own pockets, etc., etc. Nobody, now none of those educated officials are aware of what really mattered. And what really mattered was to adhere to the stipulations set up by the original gods way back then. That still exists now, mind you. Nobody knew that. So year after year, they kept not tending to that critical part of the infrastructure that delivers a natural resource that is required. We must have water to sustain our life. We must. It's not like it's we can or can't. No, you must. You know. And so they, over years, again with the greed and the selfishness and the ego and all of this, failed to maintain that critical part of the infrastructure in a Flint area. That's what we know of. But it's broader than that. I'm talking about these plots, these grids. See, we can look at Flint as one of those plots of grids. But even looking at the city of Flint, Michigan, it is also smaller plots and grids. Smaller plots and grids within the city of Flint as an example to try to articulate my vision. Could be, what do they call them? What do they call these houses? Meth houses, as an example, is a smaller grid. Some of these, or let me stop. It's not just Flint water is contaminated. I went to Flint not too long ago, and it is blighted as well. It's blighted. It has houses that haven't been demolished, but are, you know, raggedy, laying some places that are barren, all kind of stuff. And so these are dark places. There's no life. There's nothing flowing there in these spaces to sustain humanity's life. If you ever make it understand. And those spaces in which there's nothing flowing to sustain humanity's life, the people in humanity's life, are the places that have been primed for, well, number one, it has the death traps, but it's primed for dark entities to enter. We know this. In our real-time life, we know this, but we're not looking at it from a spiritual level. This is the things I'm seeing. Okay, so let me try to make that make sense. So, if you have a plot or space, like an example in Flint, in which some land is barren and a house is, you know, just been left to dilapidate, I think is the word, but has not been, leveled or whatever. It's just dilapidated, and there's nothing there. There's no life. Well, the criminal life moves in. This is how we see it in the real. Criminal life move in. They build a meth lab. Crime for what? The dark entity to come in. This is what is happening. I swear, with all I am, I watched this real physical world raise up just so I could see the spiritual. Like, just wash away. And all I saw was that. And I just used Flint as an example in one little imaginary space, to try to, again, articulate what I'm seeing. Now, multiply that times every plot, just about every plot in this world. Every plot. I'm in Detroit. Every plot or part of the grid, just about, in the city of Detroit or in your city. Let me stop, because it's not everywhere, but almost. I'll say, based on my vision, it was 80 to 85% of the grid or the plots that I saw when we talk about the world. So, earlier I started talking about the predictions I did for June, July, and August. And I was like, I was talking about, the stars was talking about doomsday prepper and survivalist. I saw the survivalists come up. And over the last few days, that's all I've been hearing on YouTube videos that I click on, talking about the survivalists, because they are active. So let me show you, let me try to tell you what I saw in my vision about the survivalists. I'm not trying to have none of this. It's just happening to me. I saw the survivalist like a real woodsman, a mountain man. And he's isolated from, of course, the rest of society. And he's okay. How did it go? He's okay. And why is he okay? And I gotta stop, because what I'm talking about is for now, but it's into the future, upcoming future. This is scary. If I could really articulate it, I'm probably have to come back into a part 3 to try to clean it all up. So it's this woodsman, this survivalist. He got his little log cabin and he just set himself up to live the minimalist life, far away from the masses, far away from other people. So let me say this. While I'm having a vision the other day, I see Libra, 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 the zodiac sign Libra. I don't see the sign. I see it's like an energy, a figure. And I immediately knew it represented Libra. Now, this figure of Libra came up with this survivalist. Why? Because as a person who is a survivalist, living a minimalist life, out in the woods, they are isolated or alienated from Libra. Libra is the partnerships that we have with other people. So much. Oh my God. So much. If y'all talking, I can't see. You type anything, I can't see. I can't see it. It's I gotta fix my screen. So I do apologize. And thank you for dropping by here. Can Angels Fly Tarot more? And let me share my crazy, horrible visions with you. Prepare. And I also went back and started looking at some of my videos I made, like 2016, 2017. Again, when I'm doing what I do, I don't really get the gravity of what I'm sharing. I'm just following the rules. And I was like, ooh, it was hauntingly accurate. People make that claim. It was hauntingly accurate. I'm tripping. I'm going through it. So now the survivalist, I'm seeing the Libra figure and the survivalist within the same scene. Actually, I'm seeing Libra here. The entity is there. The 3 entity there. Biden is here. Kamala Harris is here. And in front of me is the mountain man, the survivalist. And so the survivalist was there, and it just, I was like, wow, this is my subconscious really talking, because I just did the um, predictions, and it talked about survivalists, and I really didn't know where it fit, other than to say they're active, active behind the scenes, preparing, because they are seeing something, sensing something that the rest of the masses are not. The rest of the masses, especially in my immediate environment, are partying. But the Bible said they be partying and drinking and taking a marriage, and they gonna get snuck up on. And that's just about to happen. You see, make me nervous. Make me nervous. Oh, Lord. Anywho, so the survivalist represents those few that have had the opportunity to remove themselves from, you know, um, others, from work. That's a partnership. From being employed under somebody, having to clock in 9 to 5 or whatever. I mean, they are able to sustain their own life. They are, sovereign. They're sovereign. They're disconnected. And how they are safe. They're the safest during this time period. Because these different, this grid I've been talking about, rambling on about, and which are not only grids but plots of like land broke up. This is how it's broken up. It just shows me all these death traps and these plots and everything. They're all activated. We're talking about 85% of the Earth's landmass, maybe a little more than that, activated with all these death traps that we've developed over hundreds of years. I won't go back to the whole 1,000, because first we set it up after the entity gave it to us, and then we went overboard, didn't follow the stipulations, didn't know, then lost the truth, and created all these death traps for ourselves. Another death trap is working yourself to death, literally. That's where that comes from, working yourself to death, because it's a death trap. Because originally, remember, we've been taught that early man, each family worked to sustain their lives, doing the agriculture and everything. And then we allowed everything to go, I'll call it corporate, where we go, we go buy it. We go to work for somebody else, get some money, and go buy a little bit so that we can sustain our life and ward off death and die easy. And it didn't work. The pay resources were disproportionately distributed. It became about who you work for, where you work, how long you work, how many years you work. So the whole system became corrupt, if I'm making this make sense. So everybody wasn't getting what they needed. Another thing it showed me, my hair's even falling out. Lord Jesus, I won't do it. Anywho, another thing this entity showed me was about starving people. It's like, I've given you the technology. Maybe I could do it this way. The ethereal entity, the God, says, I gave you the technology. I gave humanity technology to feed your population. But yet, the truth is, if there are starving people, you broke the stipulation. Did I make that make sense? This God, this ethereal being, its type, gave humanity the technology to feed the masses, yet people are starving. So, everything that has occurred, I guess I could say it like this, in the food industry as an example, anything that allowed or permitted people to be hungry, to starve to death, in that, a death trap was erected. Now, some of these things we don't look at as death traps. They may look like this in reality, but they're death traps. I'm trying real hard to try to verbalize what was a vision. I'll say it like this: the reason why refrigeration may break down and lead to the spoilage of thousands of tons of food is because we didn't feed the masses. It's like it's saying it would not happen. Now you got the technology to refrigeration. And yes, people still hungry. So since you didn't use that technology to make sure everybody in this world was fed, that refrigeration gonna break down. That refrigeration will break down. I'm gonna go extend. Uh, I'm a I'm gonna use the refrigeration example, but make it, let's say elaborate to try to, you know, again verbalize this vision. So this refrigerator, the reason why you're gonna have refrigeration go out, it might your refrigeration gonna go out during hours that you don't even know it went out, and the food is gonna get contaminated with salmonella, and then the freezer gonna come back up freezer food, and it's gonna be contaminated with salmonella, but people won't know because the freezer went off when y'all was unaware, came back on and froze it again. Now the food is contaminated and will, injure other people. Death trap, because once you release from this body, remember, we're not this physical fleshly form. We're some other type of substance. That entity and its kind get us. They get us. I don't know how to explain. They get us. So all of these death traps are activated at once, and will soon be activated at once. So while all of these death traps are going off all over the place, all over the world, the survivalist, that single individual that has been self-sufficient, is the most protected. And we already know this. It's just been told to us in a different way. You know, so none of this really is new to what we're hearing. I'm just trying to share the visions that I've seen. What's really taking place, like in the, oh yeah, in the spirit. Remember I was saying these dark places are in plate spaces, these plots, having the earth gridded off, these dark places, blighted, no life flowing, nothing flowing in it to sustain life for humanity. Those spaces. It was, what was that about? I was about to say. They're all going to be activated. I forgot what I was about to say. So now I got to go into, back into something I've talked about recently, which is unemployment ending and high unemployment, no matter what the system says, is all a part of it was a death trap. There were stipulations. We didn't see to them because of what? Greed, people's egos, and all that kind of stuff. So now, dealing with our reality. Soon and very soon, based on what I see, I gotta say this, I've been trying really hard to figure out how we can have some normalcy. But our social structures, even our infrastructures, are breaking down. Since I've been having these visions for weeks on end, especially since the peyote pad, for weeks on end, the visions are showing me that, have showed me that, excuse me. I was about to talk about what I'm jumping all over the place, trying to put it together. Survival is just the safest. And the more people added, the more the threat increases. All of the death traps, I was talking about, all the death traps about to be activated. Over 85% of the basically land, occupied land mass, is about to be triggered. We are not physical. like we think we are, with some type of, I don't know, all the smoke was coming up, and it was like, what was I about to say? Come on, niggas, for this baby wake up. Oh, I was about to say it. I know what the I was about to try to talk about some of the death traps, which is difficult for me to do because they've been developed through so many different ways. We broke so many different rules. It's ridiculous. So, like for instance, we have certain requisites for this life, prerequisites. Like you have to eat, you got to drink water, you got to sleep. And remember, all the technology that these gods gave us, or this God gave us, was to help alleviate some of our struggles. And our primary struggles, in order to exist in this physical realm, we gotta have somewhere to sleep. Therefore, that means we need a shelter or bedding and things like that. And when because there are homeless people, uh, it is proof that we did not follow their rules. Uh, the same thing with eating and drinking; those are the primary, uh, areas, because there are necessities in this life and we're required to meet them. There's no, we have no choice in that. And so this is what these guys, this guy was, I say gods because I saw one, but I know that there were others. So that's what they helped us alleviate. And again, we broke the rules, all of these rules. Yeah, anywho, these dark areas and spaces, because this baby is about to wake up, these dark areas and spaces are already primed. And so people are moving through these different spaces. You might not even be aware they're there because they just look like you, however your outdoors looks. And so people are moving through these spaces, and these spaces are already full of evil, evil, and ill intent. And so people that travel through these spaces with unresolved issues, anger, or jealousy, or vengefulness, or having an addiction to anything in this world and not being able to meet it, because we're going into this space where we won't be able to, most of us, many of us won't be able to meet these the demand of these urges that we have, the urges, the demi-urges, the desires, the longings, the wants and needs and stuff. And because we're not going to be able to meet them, we move through these spaces. It's like, it was a movie, example, it was a movie with Denzel Washington, and I forget, and he's on, time is on my side. Yes, it is. And they would walk past and touch each other, and the train would transfer the entity into another person. Well, we're talking about people just in general moving around and about, and as they pass through these different spaces or grids on Earth, it could be in front of a house, or it could be a whole neighborhood, or, I'm trying to give you an example of what I mean. Pass through a space, and it's already primed with evil. So even if you got like something hidden that you aren't able to pacify something, or when I say pacify, I'm talking about urges, demi-urges, that's addictions and different things like that, sexual longings, all kinds of things. Just the things that we feel like we need to be fulfilled as humans, those things, whatever they may be. And we don't have it. We haven't been able to do it. Pacify those things. And some of us may be able to suppress it and say, okay, I'm going to hold on. But when a person passes through these spaces, they're going to be triggered. Like, all of a sudden having a craving, urge, or need that's overwhelming. The death trap. And people are going to do whatever they need to do because they're going to be triggered into action. An example is, say, for instance, a person is a pedophile and they're being suppressing it, and they walk through one of these spaces, on our globe, and this urge, because it's already primed with this evil, these entities. That person in that space is going to pursue their desire, meaning they're going to lay in wait for some victim, that kind of thing. Death trap. And it's going to lead to the demise of the victim as well as the demise of the perpetrator. I hope that made sense. And that's just one example in one little space. I'm talking about 85% of the landmass, at least, is what I saw. I was like, okay. And again, back to the survivalists, away from the people, away from these plots or grids that are inactive, as far as producing something to sustain life, are the safest. But soon as, what I saw in the vision, as soon as something like Libra was moving closer in my vision, Libra, the figure of Libra was moving closer to the survivalists. But every step Libra got closer to the survivalists, the more threats popped up for the survivalists as far as their have been able to ensure their own security and well-being. It was threats. Why? Because them others, the Libra, them others got urges and desires that they can't pacify. They have no means to pacify. Their ability to try to pacify them urges, desires, demiurges, whatever, has gone so far and few or erratic that they're in a desperate state. When I say they, I'm talking about Libra. Libra represents our interaction with others. We interact with others for some reason, for some purpose, in a season. And so in relationship to the survivalist who is alienated from everybody, they're more secure. Right there with the survivalist is all that is needed. The bare basics, like the gods gave humanity to sustain your life. So they okay. But when they start interacting, if they ever have to start interacting, oh man, with another, it's a problem. Another thing. There were two curses that I saw coming, and they already exist. We know them. One is the curse of prosperity. Another is a curse, prosperity and popularity. During this time, and I'm going to let y'all go. No, I'm going to talk about my language too. During this time period, which I'm talking about, meaning what I'm saying in the upcoming years, based on what I'm seeing, our system is not going to reset itself quickly enough. And I think that society, the world, is going to fall into mayhem. And there is the prosperity curse. That's to say, during this time period, if you have or you obtain, people will see that you have gotten, you are getting, resources. And that is going to be a beacon for them to come after you. Just like the survivalist. But the survivalist is prepared. The prosperity one is just somebody to have during the time that a lot of people don't have. Hi, little girl. How are you? It's a difference. And then it's the curse of the popularity. And that's a person that's in the eyes, in the eye, in a perspective, or the how do you let this thing, make this thing come loose? Your granny don't know. You might, okay. Don't start fussing. You got sleepy here. You got sleepy here? I got sleepy that time. I got sleepy here. So, real quick, so I can go ahead. Bad granny, bad granny. So hold on. Look, baby. Did you just vomit on me? So, there are going to be hordes of people that, you know, whoever a person follows, people that's popular and things like that, people gonna try to overtake y'all because they dependent on you as to be a leader. You will be held accountable for any losses, you know, or people gonna feel like you are responsible for resolving their issues or their inability to obtain what they need to pacify themselves. The last thing, because this one about to really get started. Okay. Pull back. Pull back number 2. Put it in your mouth. And then the last thing I want to talk a little bit about Kamala Harris. Now the Joe Biden one I'm still working on. I've had concerns because he's the first president that doesn't have a wife and family. If I heard the story correctly, I think that he lost his wife and children in an accident or something like that. But that was also significant, shown to me why that was and what he represents. So I'm gonna go into that maybe another time. Another thing is to Kamala Harris. I did a video on Kamala Harris, did a birth chart interpretation. She has mentioned she came up in my vision, and during that birth chart interpretation, I also revealed that she was either the 12th or the 13th incarnation of Shiva, and Shiva the destroyer part. And so, what was it? Remember, Kamala Harris was in my vision, right beside this God I'm talking about. And this guy, remember, was like eating our substance, whatever it was. But first, we physically had to be destroyed. And I saw Kamala Harris by the side as the deliverer. She was the deliverer of our substance to these guys. So it's like she leads us into that final state in which like 85+% of the land mass and all that's inside of it, including people, are basically broke all the rules, set up all the stipulations by the God. She's the deliverer. She triggers that 85%. At one point in time in history, it might have been 1%. Of man doing wrong, and 2%, then 3%. This is over 85% of the land mass and all that's on it, or within in the space, including people that are deemed, we can say, biblically unrighteous, and are delivered to that entity to consume. I don't know. Hope that made sense. I'm going to get off here because as y'all see, I got a little baby and a little feet coming on up. So she needs some grandma attention. Right? Okay. Bye, y'all.